Okay, thank you. Welcome to the Conservation Commission regular meeting of Thursday, June 13th, here in Town Hall and on Zoom. I see we have one person on Zoom, Chris Shipper. Welcome, Chris.
Thank you.
First, just with the housekeeping, roll call. If I want to go, Linda Andros.
I'm here.
Here. And Silvio.
Here.
Susan Schweitzer.
Here.
Robin Bates Mason here. John Fulkerton.
Cusack here.
Cusack. Why am I saying Fulkerton? God, sorry. If I had my laptop with me. Okay, next is to approve the special meeting minutes of April 4th and also the regular meeting minutes of May 9th. Does anyone have any changes to the?
Yeah, the May 9th meeting minutes have to be changed with the same adjustment that was made to the April ones.
Was that the name? The name, okay.
Spelling
So
of the name.
that was Rick's name,
If we just
spelling.
make that change,
Okay,
I mean, I would move to just make that change of Richard Thornton's name.
okay,
Spelling, then we can just approve them both.
okay. Anyone opposed? Okay. All in favor?
Only vote for one of the two.
Who moved that?
Yeah, it's one that's because you weren't at the,
Who moved
Yeah,
that?
oh, sorry.
April.
We need a
Who
motion.
wants to make the motion to approve the minutes? Linda, do you want to make the motion?
I move to approve the minutes
Okay.
as amended.
And so for the special meeting, John was not there.
Right.
So I will make the second on the minutes of the special meeting, April 4th. And then all in favor of the special meeting minutes of April 4th? We're here. Passes. And then who wants to make the motion for the May 9th approval of the meeting?
Make the
minutes?
motion for May 9th.
That's
I
John.
abstained because I wasn't here. I didn't attend.
Linda was not here, so she'll abstain. And then all in favor of May 9th? So passes. Okay, public comment. Chris, do you want to say something?
Yes, just briefly, 3 points. First, I'm pleased to announce that we've identified our 123rd different species in Bristow Park last week. It was a killdeer, which is a kind of a plover, a little unusual, but with the waterways and pond, they occasionally fly in. So we're on our way towards our goal of 124 by September 8th. Second comment I'd like to make is a recent article indicating that lawn pesticides are now showing up in the Norwalk River at deadly levels. And I'm wondering if the Conservation Commission is looking into water testing for lawn chemicals at this point.
Was
We're
that
not doing
the,
any testing.
No,
We have no funding.
yeah.
Okay. I just thought I'd bring that question up. And then the last is, I received 2 emails from residents requesting that electric bicycles be banned from Bristow Park, one of whom was almost in a collision, and another one who felt that they were rather disruptive to the birds. And obviously, in my case, the other note is they chew up the trails. So is there an opportunity to ban motorized bikes, either gas powered or electric powered, from the park?
so Tiger, is that something we would need to go through the police commission, or is that, I mean, it's already in the town that you're not supposed to have electric on trails, correct?
I'd have to look, I'll have to look that up and then see purview as to how to do that, whose purview it would be, but I can get back to you, tell you.
I have seen them on the sidewalks too.
What about non-motorized bikes, Chris? I mean, is that a concern of yours?
And I think the challenge with the non-motorized bikes is if they're off the main trail, which is the wider trail, versus the narrower side trails. I think it's a risk to visitors to have bikes, dirt bikes, non-motorized dirt bikes riding around there. I suspect that there's an age component in this. If you're a 60-year-old on a bike, you're not going crazy, but if you're a 15-year-old on a bike, you tend to, you're able to do lots of laps and chew up the softer trails in the process. So it's not something I think it's not something I love. I always want to say welcome. You'd always want to say, hey, we're all welcome in the park. but it's been too many sequences of problems to say we need to address it. And now I'm getting emails from, citizens who I have to then forward on to Robin. I don't know whether I should forward them on to Tiger, but I send them to Robin as they come in.
Well, if you could copy me, that would be great.
I mean, my feeling is that it's not really conducive to any form of biking. And that's not the intent. And, we could have, you have to walk your bike through the park type, motorized or non-motorized. But I don't know how enforceable.
Mhm.
that
I think that's the
Right.
enforceable. I think the electric, but I believe that there was something in the town that you're not supposed to have anything motorized on town trails.
I'll look, I'll
Yeah.
look.
So
Yeah.
what's the next step? Should we contact the
Let's-
police commission or reach out to?
Well, let's review the statute first, the ordinance, and
Okay.
then we'll review review purview at that point, and go from there. If it's already written into the ordinance, it's easy to sign, if you will.
Right.
If it's not written into the ordinance, then we'd have to, that's bylaws and ordinance committee. That'd be the town council. if you
Yeah.
Want to go that route.
So what about just at least signage?
I gotta look and see if I can ban them first.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have
You
to
know,
see if
I
we
gotta go
can.
looking for that. I can't say, no, don't come in if it's not addressed. If it's addressed, then it's easier, if you will, then we can look at putting in signs.
If
It's
it's
not-
already in there, if it's addressed, we should say no motorized bikes and please walk all other bikes, right?
Yeah, I just
And even
haven't
if it's not
picked
addressed.
up on
It
that.
would be just a reminder
I
if we had signage.
looked it up a while ago and I thought it was
People don't
something on
remember those
trails, but
things Or read them.
um,
Yeah, I gotta look again. And I'll
Just
talk
checking
to
the
John.
ordinance before they go riding their bike.
okay. And then sorry, just ask the question since Chris has brought that up about the bikes. Do we know if the cameras are going back in?
They are, yeah, IT's been busy. He just mentioned that he's gonna have some time shortly to put those up. We won't say where they are going, but we'll
Right.
say that they are going.
They're going up. Okay, great. Thank you.
One side note to add to the discussion of banning bikes from this park. There aren't a lot of places to ride your bike in this town because we don't have bike lanes or anywhere designated for kids who want to ride bikes. And I just wonder whether it's easier to ban them from certain areas if there are other places where they can
Mhm.
ride.
Sure.
There's been some discussion of bike lanes in these meetings and in the coalition meetings. And I know after the Jeff Speck lecture, there was some enthusiasm for getting something off the ground. So I thought I would chime in with, my support for any kind of bike lane development or any kind of, I think there was some talk of a working group. So I don't know if that's within the purview of this group, but
Yeah, and New Canaan and Darien came together and tried to get a grant from the state to put in a bike lane that would have gone to, I think, from Grace Farms all the way down, was it Pear Tree?
I know it was from the center of town in, and then they had a loop that went up further, up and around town.
But-
We were looking specifically from Waveney to tie
Oh,
into
Wa-
Darien,
Okay,
and we were denied. It was,
Yeah.
Forgot exactly what it was. I think it was a congestion mitigation grant. Forgot exactly what it was.
I think it was like 5 years ago, wasn't it, or something?
Several, yeah.
Yeah.
Westcog did a study, and then we adopted that study, and then Darien and the town put it in, and we didn't get it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it was a nice plan.
Yeah.
Um,
so there's no current discussion of bike lane development or.
it's nothing specific,
Yeah.
if you will. I mean, we listened to Jeff Speck. Some of that's down a state route, right? So in what he would like to do with bollards down a state route or curbing, the state's never gonna say yes to that. It's just, I don't think that's ever gonna happen.
You can't get trees in on state roads.
Right, that's a whole other aspect, right? But we are looking at other avenues and other ways to try to develop that plan.
Is it in the
Yes.
POCD?
It was in the
I
two
mean,
thousand,
it
there was
was,
a, there
it
was a,
started in there,
there was
but I
a-
don't know if it says.
there's a map in the 2004, and there was mention in the 2014.
Right.
I believe the 2024, the draft will be coming out shortly.
Right.
For review, and we'll have to see if it's there as well.
And the survey's closed on that, right? Yeah, it
Survey
was
is
till
closed,
June
yeah.
4th.
Oh,
But in
yeah.
those 5 or 4.
4 different
It
action.
was in
It was
there.
in, yeah.
In the,
In the-
not an insignificant way. It was in there in a few spots.
Welcome Lynn Canaan, to the meeting. Okay, so,
I'm
Excuse me,
sorry.
Can I go back and ask Chris a question about the water testing? Did the Community Foundation award a grant to Harbor Watch to do any of the river sources for New Canaan?
Yes, they did, and a pretty healthy grant.
So we could have a presentation from them then, because they did the testing, so they could let us know what their findings are.
Right. I think you could reach back out to Nikki Spiller and request a presentation on the river testing from on the 2024 results.
Okay, great. Thank
would that
you.
include pesticide or just the E. coli?
I didn't think it included pesticides. Was that from some other information?
Oxygen,
Than Harbor
Oxygen.
Watch?
temperature, and E. coli are the primary testings.
Right,
of the
so
rivers.
the findings of the Norwalk Rivers pesticides was from whom?
Um,
That was Norwalk River watershed, wasn't that?
That was sent out by
Louise?
the NRWA, Norwalk River Watershed Association, in their latest reports. And I don't know whether it was an agricultural experiment station that undertook it, but here we go. The U.S. Geological Survey tested water across the country and tested 16 rivers in Connecticut, and 9, including the Norwalk River, contain neonics at levels lethal to aquatic life. So this was a U.S. Geological Survey.
Okay, great, thank
Easy
you.
accessible, Linda.
Okay, all right, understand.
Okay,
Was the grant specific to New Canaan for testing, or was it just a blanket grant?
It's a blanket grant, but with the belief that they will continue to test at least 3 of the 4 rivers in our town.
Yeah.
And I think our funding helped them get the 4th river in, and then plus the Bristow testing, but that's now in the rearview mirror.
Because they test 14 different communities and their source waters, river
Mhm.
source waters as well. So this enables New Canaan to continue
Mhm.
track the
Yep.
health of our water sources.
it might be interesting to have Louise Washer come and speak to us about their findings with the pesticides. I'm sure
Yes,
she,
we
from
actually-
Norwalk Watershed River
Yeah,
Association.
We wrote that down on our possible
Yeah,
newsletter information.
yeah, so I can reach out to her, see if she can come
Okay,
to an
that
upcoming
would be
meeting.
great.
Okay, great. So next on the,
Could we find out who our new
Lynn Canaan, I said that, sorry.
Lynn?
Lynn, Lynn, and then Canaan.
Never
Thank
gets
you.
old.
And, okay.
So,
Is she here as a public comment or just a listener?
public comment, I believe. So Chris, well now, Lynn, did you want to say anything? Some public comment?
Yes, I'm here on behalf of myself and Stina Bakersall, who could not come, about putting together an event next year for Earth Day, as we have not done anything in town, and many towns around us are doing Earth Day festivals, and it's not something we should keep ignoring. And possibly doing more events around climate change and maybe mental health effects that people are having from climate change. So.
And the library's having a
and the
program.
library, yes.
on
along with the
October.
library, in October, it's having an event on mental health and climate change.
Yeah, so we'll need to promote that because that's
We just attended an event in Bedford that Bedford 2030 put on, panel discussion about
because the library one she's a top climate scientist
yeah.
from Texas Tech, I think.
He talks about how you talk to people about climate change.
Right.
And then apolitical and also without freaking them out.
Okay, well, Earth Day 2025 is on the agenda, so,
So that's.
great, thank you. Okay, next we have, after a public comment, there's no one else out there on Skype, okay. Bristow Centennial update, John Winter couldn't make it today, but regarding the special permit, he'll be preparing and submitting the Centennial event permit application shortly. John, I wasn't able to make the meeting, but you were. Is there anything you want to mention about the planning for the Bristow Centennial?
No, John is best to speak to that, other than the fact that it continues to move forward. So there were no kind of specific action items, other than it's
Right,
front
okay.
and center for the land trust.
Okay, and just because we got updated information, it will not be under the Conservation Commission, the actual Centennial, it's under the New Canaan Land Trust. So they'll be submitting to town the insurance information with that, and they're working with the Parks Department in getting some help in the chairs and everything like that. I feel like Chris wants to say something. Okay, so we have that. The Environmental Coalition update. And is there anything?
You mean the group that?
Yeah, the library. Yeah.
I don't have any updates from them. Yes, Chris has some.
Sorry, Chris?
I've learned that, and again, I think if Mrs. Canaan is in the room, I know that Christina Fagerstall wants to approach the Environmental Commission to highlight Earth Day as an event.
Oh, sorry, you probably didn't hear Lynn. That's what she was talking about. She's not in the microphone.
Perfect. Okay, then that's the connective tissue. So if that's the case, great. Then I have no other comment, and I'm actually going to step off then. So thank you.
Okay.
Bye, Chris. Thank
Bye,
you.
Chris.
Hi,
Thank you.
Chris.
Thank you.
Robin, not to step in, did you want me to give you an update on Bristow itself?
Oh, yeah, sorry. I
That's
texted that to you. Yeah, so, so we're talking about the Bristow Centennial update and preparing for it. So what are I know some of the things like the parking lot, is that really the parking spaces going on Stanford Road?
Yeah, so I'll give you, so we are nearing completion of phase 4 of the work, which is basically that overlook construction, some landscaping, some additional plantings, some trail installation. So that the work interior to the park is pretty much complete, if you will. Then we sistered that with a project that we needed to build for access to the ball fields and to Bristow from Mead Park. So from the parking lot of Mead Park down by at the far end of right field, if you will, that access road. So it's been graded at present, and FlexiPave should be here on the 21st. Is what they're saying to come out here. Was the last date that I got from them.
Is there a way town could kind of get that information out to people? Because I'm getting people coming up to me like, really, this is what it's going to be, gravel? That it's
I
coming.
can try. Yeah, I mean,
know.
it's so hard. I mean, I can certainly.
Like, could
you
something go on the social media of the town saying like the FlexiPave? Because I'm getting a lot
Let me
of.
talk to Enza about that, because I can maybe get her to do a social post.
They're
if you
coming
will.
out to actually do the work, or they're coming out to? look
No,
at it?
people are complaining about the gravel. 'cause
No,
they
I
think
understand, but
that's
they'll be here.
Yeah, they'll
to
be here
actually
within about
do-
a week or so.
do the work.
More.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was about the 21st. Is what they had said
Yeah.
before. We had tried to schedule them from the beginning, right? And just, okay, when can we fit into your schedule? And the gentleman came out already, measured it, took a look at it, liked how the base was laid out, everything was laid out. And
Right.
we were told the 21st.
That's the only point I was making, is that it's
It's coming
practically
up
here.
here.
Yeah. so.
Yeah. So, it's hard, I mean, I can, maybe, I hate science, but you can put a science is under construction, but people got to realize it is under construction at present. But so that'll go in, and along with the new gate from where the baseball field comes in. So that path, so that's more of an accessible route into the park, because the other one is not by grade.
Right.
It'll be a nicer path now with FlexiPave, but it's not by grade, by accessible, if you will. So that'll go in around the 21st. And then I had a meeting with the state yesterday. They need to close out our permit from 124 for the sidewalks on 124 before they'll release the permit on 106. We had a couple of punch list items to do there. We're completing those. Those were completed, and I've got some paperwork that's gonna be done today, tomorrow, go to the state, close that permit out, and then we'll open up the next one. So, and the contractor's ready to go. So he's ready to start, and he's gonna start at the parking area and work his way to Park Street, so that hopefully the parking area will be done, or it will be done before it. And if we run into a glitch, I run into a glitch on the sidewalk, but not on the parking area. So people could utilize the parking area to get into the park for September. But I don't anticipate us having a problem finishing the entire project by September 8th. So that's where we stand.
Okay.
So I've got a couple days left of paperwork shuffling back and forth. Didn't realize the state was gonna hold one for the other.
Okay, yes, okay.
But they did, which is fine, but we just need to move a little bit of paperwork around and we'll get that done.
Okay, is Peter Laney, is he done? He was doing the planting, wasn't he? As well?
Peter did the plantings. Yeah, he's pretty much done unless you have something.
There were 3 sumac
Yeah.
trees left in front of the baseball fields
Okay.
on Monday
I'll
night.
talk to Peter about him.
So
Yeah,
I don't know where in the plan they were supposed to go, but
that I don't know. He was working directly with Keith and Bill. And Keith and Bill were actually locating all the plants and detailing out where they were gonna go, but I'll ask Marco
okay,
about that. He's from Peter Longa's company.
okay.
I'll ask him about
They're
those.
just in a
I
nice,
didn't know when you texted me the 3 sumacs, I didn't understand. I didn't understand the
oh,
context.
sorry.
So I apologize on that, or else I would have called him already, but I'll talk to Mark. I've got to meet him in about an hour anyways. So-
Okay, yeah, there was, well, as of Monday night, when I went for a walk around Bristol, there were 3 sumac trees in front of the baseball field. In there,
Yep.
ready to go.
All right, we'll
And
get
I didn't know if they had been forgotten, because everything, all the ferns, everything else, it looks like it's been planted.
I haven't been to Bristow in a couple of weeks, but has there been any more vandalism?
that. No,
recently?
thankfully, no, not that we've noticed. So we took care of the previous
Yeah.
damage, if you will.
You flipped the boards, right?
We flipped the boards and then we were able to scrape off or pressure wash off the other, because it was on the patio and then it was on the bench. So we were actually able to.
It looked
basically work
good.
that off.
It looked good. So you
Yeah.
were able to get a pressure washer in there?
We didn't get a pressure wash, I shouldn't say pressure wash.
Oh, it's a
But we were able
acid.
to, they were able to hand work it, if you will. And then take care of the boards. And that was a nominal cost,
The gates, the spring-loaded gates, is that,
Spring-loaded gates, got a quote from Tom Gannon, released the quote, told him, schedule it soon. And then he's gonna do that other gate as well. So we released that as well. So he's doing both of those. So the new swing gate, the small pedestrian gate for coming off the baseball field to the lower trail that's along the brook. And then both the closures, if you will. Each time I drive past, I see the pedestrian one open on 106.
Yeah,
So.
so all three pedestrian ones, essentially.
All 3 of them will have closures on it, so we
Okay.
won't have to worry about people leaving them open. Yeah,
That's great.
yeah, there was a nice deer eating the Cam Hutchins garden on
Yeah.
one day.
yeah. And then if there's other fencing, like you had mentioned, we started stringing wire on the majority of it along the railroad tracks. If
Oh,
we're
good.
missing- If we're missing something, I'll have them go back out there and look.
So I looked on Monday and there was missing on the railroad tracks.
All right, I'll have them go out and look and we'll get that.
On the side with the land trust property, it's all strung, the fencing, but
Yeah.
by the railroad tracks, it wasn't. There
Okay.
there were missing areas.
All right, then we'll fill in the blanks.
Did you manage to get the deer out of the?
Did you chase me?
I chased him and then he turned around.
And then he
actually-
chased you.
He actually was in the Cam Hutchins. We left and we were looking at the pond where all those goldfish are. And I saw him and I ran after him and he hid in the meadow.
Okay.
And then I went into the meadow and then he was not happy with me.
Yeah.
And then John Winter of Land Trust told me never do that again.
They've been aggressive.
Yeah, I know. I got reprimanded. But we were just there and he's just like, I'm gonna eat. So that is just for the Conservation Commission knows, and we'll be speaking to the Pollinator Pathway Program I think we're gonna have to rethink the Cam Hutchins Garden. The current plantings that are there, we might need to give to Land Trust or Garden Club or
Yeah.
just because I think even with the spring loaded and with the wire, because of the nature of Bristow, I lived next to it for 14 years. The deer are just gonna find a way in there because it's the only thing in a densely
Mm.
populated area
Yeah.
they can hide in and they're just gonna munch. So we might need to do some more ferns, do some mountain mint, which they don't like to
Something that they
eat.
don't like.
Yeah, so it
much.
won't be as significant of a pollinator pathway. But I mean, I don't think,
But we,
Tiger, I don't think we
want
can
it to exist. We
spray
don't want a
Bobbeck.
Eaten pollinator pathway.
Doesn't have to be proved, yeah. Yeah, it's, I mean, the oak tree that went into the pollinator pathway, just planted the oak tree, I mean, that's a pollinator. It's just being destroyed right now.
Yeah.
Um,
Once
know,
they
we
find,
have
once
a-
they find it, they're gonna go back.
yeah,
We have a seedling from the original oak tree. I believe it's up at the botanical garden in Stanford.
Really?
It's being babysat up there.
With the idea that it'll be planted the centennial, is that true?
Andrea Sandor.
Yeah.
Found it, and she said there were a lot more, but unfortunately, she thinks they were mostly trampled when they planted the new one, because that's where they all were in there. But she did dig it out,
Right.
and she took it up to the botanical garden.
It's very nice.
And is it that her intention to?
Yeah,
and
she was
that-
just.
Which I think would be wonderful to.
She
Yeah.
was just
Yeah.
keeping it over the,
Okay.
but they're so small.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very vulnerable. You really have to almost pot them for a while.
is she gonna be communicating with the Conservation Commission?
Yeah.
She communicates with me.
Okay.
Okay, that counts.
We just can't, because we don't want,
That
'cause I think that
counts.
happened at Waveney, someone just went and started planting planting.
No, no,
stuff.
she didn't
Okay.
have any intention of planting it herself. She
Oh,
just-
right, okay.
She took it to the botanical garden.
Oh, okay.
Because she wasn't comfortable keeping it. And she thought, well, that would be a good place to winter it over.
Okay.
But I have two in my vegetable garden and they're only about this
Oh, wow, okay.
swamp oaks.
Okay,
So
so
I mean,
for,
they reseed pretty easily if they're happy.
right. All right, so for Bristow, I think that's it. There's no other questions. The only other question I'd have walking through is there's some, on the side of the trails, there's some invasives that are just come up. I spoke with Todd, I met with Todd, but they can just come in and just clear that, right? Start
Yeah.
clearing it, just so when they're in
Knock it
bloom.
down with a mower,
Yeah.
weed whacker.
All right, all right, thank you, Tiger. Any other questions from anyone else on Bristow?
Just gonna circle back to the Environmental Coalition. I can check in with Michaela Porta. We haven't had any.
Haven't had a meetings, okay.
Well,
last
she,
couple of months.
you know, an email was sent out about the, to attend the meeting on the sidewalks, the town meeting on the sidewalks. So she sent that to all of us.
Right.
Right,
So,
Know if she has any initiatives looking.
Yeah.
anything
I'll
like
check in.
that. Yeah, okay, that would be great, thank you. Okay, so next on to the pollinator pathway update. I think I already just did that. The pollinator pathway planted an oak tree in Bristow behind the previous oak tree, but inside the park and not on the road, because the state would have a say in that, right?
Right. It had to be inside the fence line.
Yeah, and they only want 3 caliber inch trees now.
That's being reviewed.
Okay.
Why?
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 Are they being reviewed to approve or review?
That mandate came in as a mandate or a guideline from the DOT that anything that was planted in the right of way couldn't exceed a mature girth of greater than 3-inch diameter breast height. So we asked them to review that. So it's being reviewed internally by the DOT.
Oh, so that would be a maximum size
It would have been a
Would it
maximum
have to
size
come
tree
out
of
with-
3 inches
at maturity.
at maturity.
That's not much of a
If it-
tree.
It's not much of a tree.
That's
so
bamboo.
when it grows beyond that, it has to be taken out.
That was, right, we don't know. So, or specified that the tree itself would never get that big, so you specify a tree that would necessarily never get that big, which I don't know which one would ever never get that big.
So
So,
the
Not
ARPA
not the ones
funds,
we were kind of targeting, right?
yeah, no, not the native.
no.
So the ARPA funds for the tree planting, when do those have to be used
We have,
by?
I believe it's within December 25th, December of 25. So I'm starting to get concerned about
Yeah.
that.
And if the state's being a problem, obviously, what would that transition to another tree planting within the parks?
The monies was slated for parks and we
Right.
kind of did.
But would they
divide 'em
all
up.
go into the
Kind of
parks?
divided up 100 and 100. We
100.
would have to, we would have to then change gears if
Okay,
you were. And then, because we don't want to lose the funds.
Yeah.
Or we would have to have them reallocated. So It's a discussion that I plan to have with Deanna and Ann as to if we run into a problem where, should we reallocate the funds and then come back for future funding from the town when we settle this problem, if you will, because that's, if it's gonna take longer, then I can't get it done because of permitting, I don't want to lose the funding. I don't want the
Right.
town to lose the funding.
What about the planning in the parks, the $100,000 for the park? How has that been going?
Well, we had Keith Simpson do some work of a master plan around the house itself. We haven't broached further. The Conservancy's been looking at areas up and down the road, but we haven't made a concerted effort on that yet.
Okay. But that's not going to be the issue, like
We control
yeah, we
that
can,
money.
town
We
controls
control those parcels. So yeah, it should be easier.
okay.
What about side roads that are not state roads?
Those are ours. So
Right.
Underneath, so according to statute, I get to, I have to approve what's in the right of way.
Right.
So at that point in time, yeah. So if there were other plants that we decided, if we wanted to go on town-owned roads or town-maintained roads, then we could look at that. That would be open for suggestion from this group or others as to other areas that you might want to see that might have a similar situation, if you will, where, we're losing street trees and we'd like to gain them back. We're trying to plant Elm Street out, I have one tree left to go basically in front of Elm. But the rest of it is pretty much wherever we lose a tree, we put a tree. So they're kind of planted out. So there's not much room, if you will. When we looked at redoing Pine Street, tried to look with an eye to fix the sidewalk, fix the curbing, fix the road. There's not a lot of room left in the right of way. After that, the trees actually go on private property. So we had to kind of stop that idea of, going to a property owner, putting a tree on their property. So we lost that area to try to rescape, if you will, re-landscape, because we just don't have the right of way.
Can you use those funds to plant trees on private property?
I don't know that answer.
Because I know there are towns, I'm assuming New Canaan isn't one of them, where property owners can actually come to the town.
But I think the way that town council passed it, it was for $100,000 for public streets, 100,000 for the parks.
Well, I think the
Yeah.
street trees would be planted as part of the streetscape. But there are some cases on the private roads where the property line comes straight up. There's no sidewalk and no curb.
Right. Well, you're talking a private road. It's also just comes down to
Not
this.
private roads, but you know what I
town
mean, not
roads, yeah.
state roads.
Right. Well, we still have a right of way, but if we could, I guess your question is, if we couldn't fit it in the right of way,
Right.
could we plant it on private property utilizing these funds? I'd have to ask that question. It's a nice question. I just have to ask that question as to, and what does that set us up for precedent wise?
Yeah, also
Going
though, does the property owner, then the new property owner comes in and cuts down the trees because they don't want them.
Yeah.
And what's the right of way is about 10 feet from the street, isn't it?
Approximately. The majority of our right of way is 50 feet wide. And it's the road, we try to center the road on that right of way. So the road is 24 feet wide, leaves you with an additional 26 feet, 13 on either side, 12. We usually say about 12 feet, if
Okay.
you will, either side of the road. But it does vary. The road does move inside that right of way. But you can look at built up appurtenances, fences, stone walls specifically. If you see stone walls, primarily they're all on that face of wall is the edge of the property. And then you measure from there 50 feet across and you can get the edge of property on the opposite side of the street to help you kind of navigate. That's what we tell all of our staff to do is before we get into actually pulling out plans and pulling out surveys, just to help navigate and find yourself within the right of way. You can kind of utilize existing things that are in the right of way.
Okay.
It strikes me that correct me if I'm wrong, that there'd be plenty of town roads that we could put.
We have a lot of
in
canopy.
that 12 foot.
It was,
space.
it was originally put forth as with the New Canaan Beautification League to, the trees that came down on South Avenue leading into town, all of them died in storms
Right.
to put those in. And I believe it was gonna be native trees except where some of the wires came over or the power lines, so it would be more like a Japanese dogwood, so it would stay low. So I think that's where
So
The
the point
holdup
the point
is-
I'm trying to make is that there would seem to be ample town roads that we could spend $100,000 on within the 12-foot right of way. I mean, we could come up with our own ideas. We could go out to the public and say, would you be interested in the tree on the town right of way in front of your property? And I think we'd be deluged with potential opportunities. Um,
There are also a considerable number, this is a state road, obviously, but I think these trees are actually on private property of these large maples, and they are going fast.
Yeah.
Large.
Yeah.
I mean, they should come down. They're going to fall down. There's about 5 dead ones now.
Well,
Hmm?
you have to tell me where they are, because now I have to act on them. So tell me where they are. And I'll go
It's-
out.
Oh, and I can, I'll email you.
Please.
Yeah, they're not in good shape at all,
Okay.
but they're back a bit, and some of them probably are on private property.
Roughly how many trees do you have the funds to plant?
Depends upon the tree and its size. Sorry, we have $100,000 for roads and $100,000 for the parks. So if it's $1,000 a tree, you get 100. But I would imagine it'd probably be less than that all in, because our highway staff was going to do primarily more of the planting, if you will. So it really comes down to the size of the tree, the caliper that we wanted to place. You don't want to put in a sapling. You like to put in something of, that's a little bit larger and gives a little bit more of a bang for your buck at the time. So I don't have a pricing at all for, or an estimate.
like the oak tree in Bristol was at cost. It was about $1,500.
Right. Yeah, which
And
is a nice sized tree.
It was, yeah, it's a big
about
tree.
that. So then you say, okay, so that's why I was saying about $1,000 a tree is about 100 trees. Is about where I was, because that's actually probably a little bit larger.
Right.
And given the fact that my, staff was going to plant it, there was no planting costs, if you will. So that's how I got to about 100. At the time when I presented to the council, I said it's about 100 trees.
Mhm.
100 trees in the parks, 100 trees in the town roads at $1,000 a tree. It's about where I was, give or take.
So I would say to come back, because I believe the town council, it was approved for the project. I'd have to look in the minutes of the meeting, but it was approved for the South Avenue and other areas. But if that's not going to happen and we want to use that money before that December 2025 deadline, is this something then we could then see if we can then ask for other roads that are non-state,
Yeah, I'll ask Deanna how she wants to proceed, but yeah, we can do that.
right?
I'll see how, it's unfortunate because it just has a time frame to it, and we're
Yeah,
not gaining any ground on the state side. Bob Moran's been calling the gentleman, but he hasn't gotten an answer. So I don't have any answer back. So, but it is just something that I thought of, just the other day, saying, if I can't, what do I do? What do we do? We don't want to lose the money. So
The fall planting is ideal, right? So
it is. Well, yeah. Each tree has its own time when it should be planted, but fall would be nice. Then it kind of falls into dormancy and kind of works its way out from there. Less watering, less heat stress, less of a problem.
okay, great. Yeah, so if, I'll put that in the next, but if you could update us on just.
Yeah, I'll ask and then see,
if there's anything we can do to help make sure that this happens before the deadline runs out.
Yeah.
Yeah, on the park side, if you want to help on the park side, that'd be, beneficial to find the areas in the parks. That's difficult too, because a lot of the parks are built out as well, as far as, they're well planted. Waveney could use, some, but the rest of the parks are pretty well planted. As you drive through them, you kind of, okay, they're pretty well planted,
The orchard fields at Waveney are especially in need of some trees, I think. It's a spot where there's a softball,
Mhm.
the men's
Yep.
field right there. It's a treeless area.
Didn't the
Yeah,
girls softball, they donated, didn't they plant
there was
trees?
some trees planted in a grove, yeah, off to
Grove.
the side, that was quite nice. That was recent.
Okay,
But yeah, to your point, Ann, there's some areas along, I call it the pool road, but along to Lapham Community Center that you could
Yeah.
look to replant. In the Capo Field plan, there's some substantial plantings in that landscaping plan for if that stadium is rebuilt. or that baseball field is rebuilt, there's a substantial amount of landscaping in and around that area. But to your point, heading along that Pool Road or Lapham Community Road, there's areas where we could,
Yeah.
where we could look.
I only know that because we were baking in the sun all season during
Mhm.
softball.
Oh,
For any
there's
shred
plenty
of
of trees.
shade. And so I can take a photo of that area.
Yeah,
and
that would
send
be
it to
great.
you with, circle the
You
area.
need to get the playground in first though, no, or with it,
Playgrounds, that's not in the same area.
it's not, okay, so,
No, she's talking along the road itself
okay,
and, inside that, but where the playground is, that's got a lot of trees in it. And then there'll be a landscaping plan associated with that.
okay. So
In
we
that
need to
area.
reach out to Parks and Rec, because I need to go to one of their meetings and see and ask.
And, yeah, and if you need any help, maybe
Mhm.
identifying town roads where they might be useful, let us know and we
Yeah,
can
that'd
come
be a
up
fun
with
job.
10 ideas each and,
Mhm.
All right, let me also circle with Bob back just
Yeah.
to make sure I find out where he's at with the state.
exactly.
Their original determination was a little unfortunate.
I remember the ARPA funds was specifically for trees, not for the trimming or cutting them down.
No, no.
What is the budget this year for tree trimming? Is it 250? Is it
no, it's a little over 500,000.
500? Okay. What about the beech trees? Are some of them problematic or are they still sturdy?
So I tracked the numbers of what he's having to take down, and ashes are still predominant, if
Right.
you will, but it has fallen off of a high from a year or two ago. So, but that also might be that we've taken down so
Yeah.
many that there aren't that many left,
Yeah.
Yeah,
and the beaches are starting to be, there are more beaches that are spiking, if you will, on his list of,
Okay.
of trees. The majority of them are still ashes, some pines, and then maybe, I think it also goes by what we have in town, if you will, you have more maples, then you'll obviously be taking down more maples.
right. And is it a situation where Bob, there's a list of where the trees were taken down and then like Waveney Park Conservancy, they then say, okay, then we need to replant a tree that was just taken down?
Well, in the parks, you see two different situations, right? So you're talking roadway, most of the time on the roadside, they're diseased or damaged and they're coming down for those reasons. And they're
Yeah.
usually in a canopied area. So, but if there was an area where we had to take down 3 or 4, he usually works with the property owner to then see what we can put back in that spot. In the parks themselves, we try not to take anything down if we don't have a plan to put something back up.
Okay.
So he just took down 8 Norway maples on the western side of the house, if you will, in that parking area.
Well, that's good. Get rid of those.
Well, those were right. They're an invasive, and 2, they were kind of shading out the katsuras and some other things that were going
Yeah.
on. The Conservancy wanted us to take them down, and then we have a plan that we're working through for that parking area. That those would have been in the way of the expansion of that parking area, and that parking area will have a landscaping plan that the Conservancy is helping with as well. So those are usually we try not to take down anything in the park without a thought of what's going to come back in again.
Okay, so for the next meeting, would you be prepared to give us an update just on what's going on with the trees and the money
Yeah,
and the ARPA
absolutely.
funds? Awesome, thank you. So that covered pollinator pathway update. The pollinator pathway did have a program at the library with Pennington Gray landscapers on landscaping for resiliency. It's on YouTube now, on the library's YouTube channel. It was actually a really good program. So if you want to watch it, it is on New Canaan Library's YouTube. And I believe his name is Michael Penn McCall. Anyways, it was Pennington Gray Landscaping. Recycling food scrap swap shop update. Recycling, I noticed in the BOS during the budget, talking about, Amy Murphy Carroll brought up whether recycling was cheaper than municipal waste if it was on.
Well, yeah, the municipal, so our recycling, we went out to bid, and single stream recycling right now is being hauled away at $65 a ton and $185 a pick, if you will. So they come in, they pick up the dumpster, it's $185 to come pick it and $65 a ton for the material that's in it. But our MSW is at $111 a ton. So if we can reduce our municipal solid waste, that's really, a larger number at present, even given the 185 for the pick, if you will.
How
So
many tons usually go at a time?
I'd have to ask Donnie
Okay.
what's in each,
Sure.
what's in each hall. It varies depending upon, what's in it.
So
if
it's
you will.
still cheaper for recycling?
Still cheaper for recycling.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, but I can ask him exactly how many tons, how many tons fit in a dumpster, to calculate that haul, if you will, the pick. But right now it's, you take it 65 versus 111. 65 for recycling, 111 for
Right.
MSW. And it'll stay that way for the next year as well, because the contract was
Contracts.
2 years and it's 65 next year, and our MSW is 111 for next year. So it's standard, if you will. But I'll ask Donnie for the breakdown on tonnage of per haul, if you will.
Okay. And we charge the contractors coming in to dump the
Yes.
115, right?
Well, that'll go
ton.
as of July 1. Yeah,
Okay.
that was, the selectmen approved it as of July 1. We try to give them time to let their residents know, their customers know. But yeah, we try to keep it in line with what our tonnage was. So we're paying 111 to go out.
Okay. And it probably, you don't have this information right now, but maybe for the next meeting, if you could ask Don, contamination, is our recycling, how clean it is?
Haven't heard any problems, if you will. We're small fish, and when it hits the MRF, but I haven't heard anything about any contamination costs. But I will ask Donnie that specifically.
And can you reach out for commissioners who haven't been to a MRF? I know we're with place up in Danbury. Who's our hauler for the recycling? It's
The recycling is, it's Oak Ridge.
Oak Ridge. Yeah, it's not Wynn.
No, it was, it's not.
Can we get, I'm assuming some of the commissioners want to go see what a
Yeah.
MRF is like to understand the recycling. Is that, I know last
Yeah.
time we spoke, the one in Shelton had burnt down or something.
Had a fire.
They had a fire. So is there something where we can get,
We'll reach out to Oak Ridge and see what we can, I'll have Donnie reach out and see
Yeah.
if we can get a field trip for you.
yeah,
That's no problem.
if, I don't know, would the commissioners be interested in that?
I would.
You
It's
would,
a pretty cool look.
it's,
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. I've been the one in Stanford a few times and it's really eye-opening.
I would also love to incorporate some kind of public education around minimizing purchase of plastics and single-use plastics. I know there's a big emphasis on recycling, but if we can, Linda and I will be working together on putting together some of our public education copy. And so that's on my list. Hopefully we can talk about how to present that or how to.
Right. Yeah, because that's interesting. That's what Selectman Carol was, her point was, or it seemed like maybe I got that wrong. Her point at that meeting was just use less. Yeah.
Right. Well, it's the first part is reduce. Right?
Yeah.
It's reduce, reuse, recycle. The top of the triangle is reduce, right? So if
Yeah.
we can reduce our consumption, then we
Yeah.
don't have to worry about it at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's not as easy as it sounds. It's, for example, finding the right laundry detergent that works for a big household with kids that, has no plastic. That's taken about a year of trying different.
Yeah.
kinds of- And now I finally found, and so it'd be great if there was sort of a way to
Get that.
collect that information from people who are working on the same projects
Yeah.
in their households.
Yeah, for the newsletter. Yeah, definitely for the newsletter. And July is typically plastic. There's some group that does plastic-free July.
Okay.
Okay, food scrap tonnage or the weight?
So, well, I'll give you for the last 12 months, as this is as of a little while ago. So it's 50,800 pounds of food scraps were recovered, which is the equivalent of avoiding 30,988 pounds of carbon dioxide, which is the equivalent of 35,326 miles of driving. kind of gives you a
It'd be put in the newsletter.
right, they give, I'll send you, they send us an environmental report, every billing. They
Oh,
basically
okay.
Send us an environmental report showing, and it's a 12-month. So they do it a 12-month look back, right? So it's just a 12-month kind of view. So the best way to do that at that point in time is I just look May, because we've been doing it for 3 years. I just look May of 24, May of 23, May of 22, and I see exactly how we've been doing it, if we're trending higher or not. And I also track it monthly, but it also gives a good broad overview.
That would be good
So
for your social media.
Yeah,
Maybe you did it already.
no, I didn't. I didn't do something on that nature. I've been posting so much on paving that people are telling me I'm posting too much, so I gotta hold back a little bit, but we can certainly try to do something, take a snapshot of this and show people what's been happening, at least on this, if you will. But yeah, and then I can send you the,
I mean,
Send you a
if
report
you
when they come in.
send that to me, I can just do it on Canva and send you which I,
yeah.
Yeah.
So when it comes in, I'll just, like I said, monthly we get invoiced and monthly they come in with this report, so we can send it to you. It's kind of a nice,
What's the highlight on year over year?
the highlight.
Yeah.
Well, it's been increasing.
10% or?
We're doing better,
Yeah.
if you will.
Yeah.
So we're, I thought by last look, I think we started off, we were under 1,000 pounds. Now we're in the 1,200 to 1,300 range
Average per week.
on average per week. Yeah. And, we'll love to, just continue to drive that trend,
Right.
a little bit further, if you will. So but we are seeing growth. It's
Yeah.
just, it's no spike, just
Yeah.
overall growth, if you will.
I mean, it's not in your control, anyone's control, other than the people who bring their.
Right,
their
just
things,
comes
right?
down to
It's
more
an
education.
issue, yeah.
Yeah, it's an education thing to let them know that it's available to them, if you will. We can't pick up curbside, for them, but they can certainly bring it.
It's a good trend.
Yes, yeah, I would be worried if it was falling off or even just plateauing, if
Yeah.
you will, but it doesn't seem to be. We seem to be year over year gaining ground. And it seems to be from speaking to people, it seems like there's a little bit more awareness.
Yeah.
From when we first started, or
Right.
say when Planet New Canaan first started to now, in the talks that I've given, people are much more involved in the food side of it, if you will.
Right.
And there's been a lot more press, a lot of press. There's a lot of states that are making it mandatory
Mhm.
now, or coming up with mandatory plans. California, New York, Colorado, they're
Well,
all
food is
coming forward.
heavy and wet to burn.
Exactly.
So
So
they
they're-
want them out of the
Right, but
incinerators.
that's ones where I get a newsletter like once a week, and there's always something in there about food waste. Where 2 years ago there was
Right,
not,
right.
if you will, and now it's they highlight 3 articles, and one is always about food waste. So you can tell it's a growing topic.
Do you think
And the-
Connecticut will, sorry, do you think Connecticut will go in that direction as well?
I think he will.
Mandatory?
Yeah, I think that they'll go that way. My personal opinion is I think that they will, because we seem to mirror California, so we seem to. So I think
Well, they're
that
doing the
there's-
push
I
after
guess
the
they both-
incinerator in Hartford has been shut down.
Right.
They're putting a big push to try to get food waste out of
Hmm.
just because it's hard to burn and there's just not much
So
capacity.
in the New York apartment buildings now, they have 3 recycling units for apartment owners.
Oh, really? So it's binned out?
Separated, it's
Oh,
binned out.
it's even nice. That's even nicer. I have another meeting at 1.
Okay, so I think
So-
we did just swap shop. It's open from 9. I think it's going well. I think do you quickly want to just go invasives in the parks, invasive plants? Can we just talk for 2 seconds on that?
Sure.
The town they had the pollinator pathway resolution, but you guys don't put in invasives. It's not like Newtown that has the native only because of all the groups that are working within planting, like Beautification Garden Club.
Right. We tried to come up with a list. We couldn't because we work with so many different groups, but the thought was
Right.
no invasives, and then try to stick towards the natives or, plants that are much better in our region or, in our area because of reduced watering and things of that nature.
That's changing.
That is changing.
Very
That
fast,
is
it's
correct. So
changing. I
That's why,
mean, what
that's why I
used-
mentioned it, because it's not necessarily,
It's not
the zone's
static.
changing. So to your point, that's why I mentioned it, because it's like, we have to look, it actually is a broader scale, and the landscape architects are telling us the exact same thing, that they can specify more because of where we are, because of the climate, if you will. But we don't have a list. And we tried to get to a list, but we could not.
Is
get
there a
to
list of that are not allowed?
No,
So they're
No,
not like
it's-
wing euonymus, Japanese barberry, nothing?
those we wouldn't allow. Those.
But
don't
there's nothing
fit. But
officially.
There's nothing official. No.
Okay,
We did try to get
Harder
to, we
to
did
find
try to
now,
get to a
though,
list.
because the
And maybe,
nurseries
maybe it
aren't
would be
selling
better
it.
to get to a list of not allowed versus a list of allowed, because it's
Right.
probably a good point, because we had a hard time getting to the,
Is-
you know, consensus on a list of allowed. So we said, because we went
Yeah.
that route, showed other towns, couldn't get consensus, but I think we can get a list of not allowed. I think they would be in consensus at that point, if you will.
and if if we
You guys
work
wanna
on
help
that
us?
to give to
If
you,
you
would
want to
that
help us, that
something?
would be huge. Yeah, that's not something we're gonna be able to
Yeah,
lift.
Would it help if the list was encouraged and discouraged?
Yeah, it's even better. But you could also have some ones in there that we just don't want to see,
yeah.
you know, and I think that they would be,
Heavily discouraged.
I think that
Yeah,
they
the
would,
top 10
I think that they would say yes.
hated.
Yeah.
This is residential as well as parks,
I can't do residential,
right?
if you will. I can't mandate residential, but we can certainly mandate,
The
what
parks.
we put in our parks,
Right.
in our grounds.
All
And
right,
with
thank you.
residential, we can, you know. put
But
encouraged and
when
discouraged.
applicants come to planning and zoning for building permits and landscape plans, you can start there.
That's
That's
right.
P
what
and
they-
Z
they already
does.
Do that very hard. John
Yeah,
Chris
John
does a very
Chris.
nice job of asking for natives. He's got a lot of criteria that he does already. He does a very nice job. That P and Z does a very nice job on.
Yeah, I think he
Plantings and
pushed
stuff.
that the library went to like 90% rather than 80% of native plants. Thanks, Tiger.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm not 100% sure on that, but, okay, so I would also, sorry, we skipped over newsletter because he was leaving, but just with the education invasive plants.
Yeah.
I think we should reach out to the library and have a program. We did one, there was one once before about, Japanese barberry and the tick connection with higher tick levels. That was well attended, but that was also about 6 years ago. Maybe that's something.
Oh, yeah.
Because the Japanese barber, I mean, the wing euonymus and Japanese barber, with land trust,
Yeah.
just taken over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With my own land.
Okay, so, does someone, Ann, do you want to does anyone want to work on a list
Sure,
for,
absolutely. There are existing
like-
ones that are out there.
yeah,
There's
Um,
plenty of lists.
That
Yeah.
I
to pull
use
from.
for my own purposes,
Yeah.
and we could take that and modify it and take a look.
There are a lot of newsletters on,
Yeah.
programs with landscapers,
Right.
landscape architects, and the newsletters that I get are filled with these lists.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
yes, I'll do
Yeah.
it. Now that school is out tomorrow,
right.
between now and our next meeting, is sort of what I'm hoping to carve out for public education and have something for you to vote on and approve. Linda and I are going to work together on, now that we've clarified that we can do that.
Well,
Have you found,
there was information given afterwards, so if it's just because you're a Democrat, you're unaffiliated. So we got some information afterwards that some of that information was incorrect.
what'd you learn?
It does constitute a meeting. So our town administrator, Tucker Murphy, reached out to me and said, it is actually a meeting. But if you're unaffiliated, you're Democrat, I believe that is fine to do outside of a meeting because that can be seen as a caucus, but please reach out to Tucker for confirmation on that. I know it's so bureaucratic and it's the whole FOIA thing, but it's not, if,
Just change my status.
oh.
I can meet with anyone then.
Well, I even think if you're unaffiliated, you technically have to say ahead of time who you're going to caucus with. So
Okay.
I'm not pro this, I'm just,
If
I
you're
know.
not, if you're not interested in elected office, I think you can just change your affiliation just before you vote.
Or just before you meet.
Pardon?
Just before you what?
You have your
Yeah,
meeting.
well, you have to go to the,
And then I can change it back whenever I want.
I thought the advice given to us was that as long as you take that information and present it to the public, the research phase, where you're.
yeah, no, it's reach out to Tucker Murphy because she viewed the meeting afterwards and new information was given to me that was conducting a meeting,
Okay.
technically a meeting. So just reach out to her because I think it's fine if you two are, but like John and I couldn't outside of the meeting, like have a discussion regarding Conservation Commission.
Because you're both
different
Yeah,
parties.
oh, different
Yeah, yeah,
parties.
yeah. So it's, I know.
I just think this is hysterical.
When we, town council, we met, we had someone speak to us about FOIA and it was like, well, if you meet each other at the
Yeah.
grocery store and you just happen to say a few
Agree
things,
to
that's
be
okay. But
unaffiliated, we're totally neutral.
I know.
yeah.
So as an unaffiliated person, I can meet with anyone on this.
And that's where I want you to check with Tucker, because it typically, how it was explained to me was that you can be unaffiliated, but you have to say that ahead of time who you're caucusing with. So you could be unaffiliated, say, but I'm going to caucus with Republicans, or I'm unaffiliated, but I'm going to caucus with the Democrats. So you just need
Or you don't
to,
caucus with anybody.
well, I think as if yeah, so check with Tucker, because it was
Okay.
brought to my attention after the meeting that, it did consider a meeting, but yeah, so for the July meeting, that'd be great. July, we will also have, Rick come. He was traveling this month. So he
Hopefully
reached
that-
out.
That's 15 minutes.
Yeah, 15 minutes, and he's going to talk about how he and his neighbors got together and buried the lines, and he's spoken to the Utilities Commission. He reached out to Beautification League about it.
He has a lot of information because he's done it.
Yeah,
So, I mean, I hope maybe we can even ask him to be the liaison to the community as a resource for people who are considering.
that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh, I think that would be, yeah, I mean, and he has reached out to organizations about doing that, so,
Yeah, he has a fundraising arm put together, I think. And
Okay,
he's starting
wow.
to,
Very short road.
yeah. Well, you know.
that-
I
We
think
did
there's-
it at our house from Barry, the electric and cable.
I think he
Because
actually
we
did
had
part of
to,
his,
we
he
had to
did part of his
because our
road.
neighbor was building and we had changed boundary lines and stuff. And so there was actually a town and Eversource.
Yeah.
You know, you said that we had to do that, you know, we didn't have a choice.
I thought it was new developments since
Okay.
1970 something, all had to be underground. So like Old Studio Road where the new half is,
Well,
that's
these
all
were new
under.
houses being built, but
Right.
because we changed property lines, then we had to bury the electrical and cable
Right.
from
I-
the house to our guest house.
I imagine a lot of people have this thought, and then that thought for
We
a lot of
didn't
people
want
goes,
to.
goes nowhere.
Believe me,
And-
we didn't
and
want to because it cost us
If
a
you have
lot
a
of money.
resource
Yeah.
that people can kind of go to and like get a little bit of a jump start, it could be
Yeah.
It's,
valuable.
I
it's
think-
certainly not cheap, I can tell you that.
No, although the way he presents it, just to give a little preview, is, you know, the effort to bury these lines can be bundled with other projects like creating bike lanes or like planting
Yeah.
or rethinking this
And that's
area.
where some people have been upset, like on Main Street when the water lines went in and you know, it's being
Yeah.
ripped up, is like, well, could we take this opportunity?
Right.
Right.
Um,
Right, because the topography changes.
Yeah.
And then, and, you know, and all sorts of things change once you start digging that deep and moving earth and rocks around.
yeah, so it's, yeah, I think he would be like a great resource to get out to information to people, like, you know, because what I've heard, like, oh, well, you can't lay them when you're doing this, or you can't lay them when you're doing that, but I think he's done so much research, he would
Yeah.
know.
He does, and, you know, as we heard, bike lanes are currently dead in the water. If there's something else that gets people excited, and it's burying lines, but it can be bundled with
The bike lanes or
bike
something.
lanes or whatever this commission wants to put forward. Maybe there's a potential to reactivate some of these conversations that we care
Yeah.
about.
And it's also the general sentiment that we're not going to have more sidewalks.
Yeah, so that was being discussed, and that's the ordinance committee brought that up, so that's something to,
Right.
it's that they want to change, if anyone's unfamiliar, they want to change the ordinance where the town maintains the sidewalks. It would be the property owner next to the sidewalk that would have to maintain it you know, with ice or snow.
There's the maintenance and then there's the high cost of what the town is required
Right.
to maintain, and that they don't want to, you know, the sentiment is not to increase that with more sidewalks so that that cost is increased.
Yeah,
But most other towns, I know this is absolutely true in Norwalk, the property owner is
Yeah.
responsible for the clearing and maintenance of the
That
sidewalk.
was brought up. definitely. But,
Not that
but also in addition to that, there was a discussion of how much it costs for DPW and cost the budget of removals from various public sidewalks that they're responsible for. And therefore, public sidewalks obviously are part of this walking community, spec thing, more walkable cities or
I think those are
towns.
mostly in commercial areas.
Yeah, and so the sentiment was that they didn't want to have to build anymore because of the cost incurred in the maintenance.
Unless that cost gets pushed to the
Into the budget.
property owner.
No,
who-
no, it wasn't even that though, because it's
okay.
still the cost related to, that was my takeaway.
If
from the
someone else is
meeting.
incurring the cost,
Yeah, but these were the town still, like, the town sidewalks, not, that they have to clear and maintain that are part of the green link or whatever, whatever is part of the green link that the town is responsible for and liable for. So it began to be a liability issue.
but I'm
That's just-
confused. If you make it the responsibility of the property that abuts the sidewalk, other than parks, town hall, and things that the town actually owns, it would seem to me that that would reduce the cost. I know you're not,
No,
I'm asking the
I'm
wrong
not-
person, but
I'm just telling you what the discussion was. I think, that,
Okay.
yes, that
Okay.
the discussion was I think it was left, and of course, who knows how it's going to sort out, but it was left that the homeowner and certain business owners would be responsible
Hmm.
for it, and then the liability, of course, if something happened with somebody walking across that, but there was still the discussion of the sidewalks that have to be maintained by the town, that are designated town sidewalks. And
Sure.
how expensive that was. And would there be an investment in the future for more of that?
Well, like anything else, the actual vigilance as to what sidewalks are actually being maintained when it's reverted back to the property owners is very erratic.
yes.
And by the time you actually discover that they haven't cleaned their sidewalk, the snow's melted.
I was gonna say, this is an interesting discussion because it only snowed once last year.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
That was a discussion too, that.
That we're
with-
not-
With climate change, that it wasn't such an issue. I know it was a big issue when I was president of the board at the Nature Center, is to get DPW to, clear it from the preschool and the visitor center. I mean, it's it's an issue because they have a lot to do.
Yeah.
They had a lot of clearing to do. So,
And that meeting is available on YouTube on the Town of New Canaan.
Right.
Under the Town Council Ordinance Committee. Okay, so moving on. So, but for invasive plants for education, just want to mention that I'll reach out to Connecticut Agricultural Experiment Station because they have speakers for free. And they're quite good. And see if they could come and do something, see what's available. They have a whole list of speakers and
yeah.
they will come and reach out to the library if they would be interested in a program. Lastly, Earth Day 2025. I just wanted to get on the agenda, start thinking about it now. Start planning something. I put you in touch with Christina Fagerstall. She had done something that was going to be on Town Hall, and then 2020 hit. So I think it was April 2020 that she had gotten
Yeah.
a band or something, and she'd done the special permitting. So she reached out to me saying she wants to do it for 2025. So that's why I put you in touch. And Lynn Kanan, who was here earlier,
Sure.
she's interested as well.
Yeah, we used to have a coalition of people interested in Earth Day, and we would do the event together.
That's
Right.
great.
So,
A couple of people
yeah, I
from,
mean,
the
have
town, a couple- someone from this commission.
everyone that is in an environmental.
Maybe
you know,
that should
interest.
be a discussion item for the environmental coalition.
Mhm.
Because there certainly are a lot of members there. And if they all came
they're all
together, it would
interested,
be
yeah,
perfect.
That's
Totally,
right.
it would
And-
be great.
And the
Yeah.
schools already have a lot
Yeah.
of programming around this. Earth Day is always a big
Yeah,
school.
right.
So.
Yeah.
Well, the Pollinator Pathway, they did the last Earth Day program with the groups came together. They did something at the Nature Center. It just wasn't well attended. So that's why some of the
Yeah.
It was a nice
I remember- I
Saturday
remember that,
morning,
yeah.
though.
Yes,
There were
the
sports going
the
on.
Conservation Commission
Yeah.
had a booth there,
Yeah.
or a table there, and not very many people came.
Yeah, so I think what needs to be discussed is what type of event would bring the most people.
Yeah,
in.
Exactly.
yeah, and where.
Yeah.
And, so
So,
what kind of destination, and maybe it's more than one, just, one place.
yeah, the health department did something with, Tiger at Waveney House on Earth Day. Planet New Canaan just paid for the food, sponsored it. So, okay, so you'll reach out to Christina and then we'll start, and I would like to keep that on the agenda if you're okay with it for
Sure.
each meeting, so
Yeah.
we update it and so we're, because these
Right,
things come so quickly.
Yeah.
yeah.
Especially
when we only have a limited number of meetings.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, and that's right, and our next meeting in July, and then we're off in August. Any other questions or comments for
I
move
say
for a
con-
motion?
Congratulations to Planet New Canaan for getting at least one of the grantees.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The water company
from the
aquarium.
water company.
Yeah, we were really excited about that.
Yeah.
Because having money is good for doing projects, we have learned. Okay, who wants to make the motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn.
Lyndon, John seconds, all in favor?
There's 1:14.
Yep, 1:14. Great, thank you.
Thank
Now we're
you.
gonna end record.